Hello.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. So, on behalf of my director, CSIR NIS, Dr. G. Narahari Sastry, and my team at SRTP, I welcome you all to today's Eminent Scientist Lecture. And today's lecture is going to be delivered by none other than Professor Dinabandhu Sahoo, who is a former director of IBSG, and now he is a professor in the Department of Botany, University of Delhi. So this for the information of our speaker today, I would like to just mention that this is a 2 months CSIR summer training research program, and it is an exclusively online training program. So this whole idea is actually to provide a platform and an opportunity to the students to do research, to do science while they are stuck at home, and especially during these times when the whole world is still battling against COVID-19 pandemic. So this idea was triggered by our Honorable Director General CSIR, Dr. Shekhar C. Mande, and under the leadership of our director, this idea was put forward, and on 16th of June, the program was inaugurated by our Honorable DG, and today we have the fourth Eminent Scientist Lecture. So we will start the program now. I welcome you all once again, and special welcome to our speaker, Professor Dinabandhu Sahoo. So before we proceed, I would like to request our director, Dr. G. Narahari Sastry, to say a few welcome remarks.
Thank you, Ilika, and good morning, all of you. Professor Dinabandhu Sahoo, and thank you very much for kindly accepting our request to give this talk. And we are all honored to have you. This particular program is designed to bring forth the personalities who have achieved something unique in their life, and also try to trigger your passion for doing some adventurous things. And I feel that probably one of the most adventurous thing for all of you is to go to Antarctica. Even now, Professor Sahoo is in the first batch of this expedition. He's the first Indian student to go there, and he is one of the very, very well-known scientists in the field, and he was also a director of IBSD Imphal, and this particular institute played a great role in improving not only Manipur but the entire Northeast under his leadership. And I'm really very thankful for him for accepting our invitation to come and give a talk. And I hope all of you will enjoy this. And if you have any doubts, please put it in the Q&A session as you were doing earlier. So with these few remarks, I welcome Professor Sahoo, and thank you, Ilika.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, before I invite Professor Sahoo to give his lecture, I request Ms. Lisamoni Kalita, who is a research scholar here, to give a kind introduction of our speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to briefly introduce sir. Professor Dinabandhu Sahoo is a former director of Institute of Bioresources and Sustainable Development, Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. Presently from Department of Botany, University of Delhi, he is a change maker. He was the first ever student who visited Antarctica and hoisted Indian tricolor in 1987. He is a professor, scientist, strong advocate of youth empowerment, environmentalist, inventor, innovator, and so on. He has been striving ceaselessly towards improving the quality of lives of people living in coastal and rural India through application of science and technology at grassroots level. He traveled all the 7 continents and 5 oceans in less than 2 years' time and also made 2 trips to Arctic. He was instrumental in launching India's first Cherry Blossom Festival and presently scientific advisor to Chief Minister of Meghalaya. Sir is also a fellow of several national science societies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kalita. It is my pleasure to now invite sir to give his lecture for today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Professor Sastry, for inviting me to interact and share my experience with all the students. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Can you hear? Okay.
Yes, sir, we can hear you very
So,
clearly.
at the outset, my good morning to Northeast and good morning to the people all across the country and around the world. And in this particular time when the whole world is talking about coronavirus, I will be taking to a place where this is the only continent where there is no coronavirus. I think this is a time out of all the 7 continents, 6 continents are infected. Antarctica, the 7th continent, where the virus was not able to travel. I'm going to tell you my own personal experience. My journey to Antarctica, it's not my journey, it's you're excited to go to this frozen continent way back in 1987. Can I have the next slide, please? Can I have the next slide? Day, all of you know it's Jagannath Rath Yatra. You can see this picture in the background, the temple town of Puri. I was born here in this particular town. You can see this is a picture of my school days, and this is the temple city of Jagannath temple, and you can see today the car festival has just started, and Puri is known for its famous sea beach, and this is where I was born. Next. Next, yes. So after finishing my college education, I decided to move out of this small little religious town to pursue my higher education. So I just got into a general compartment in July 1980 after sitting for 36 hours on a wooden chair at 40 plus degree. I landed in Delhi in the midnight and spent my first night in the New Delhi railway station. So this is where I started my journey. The main idea is to do my master's and then to become prepare for the civil service to become an IAS officer. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide. Yes. The first night I slept in the railway platform on 8 July 1981, and since then my learning started when I completed my master's in 1983 with a national scholarship of 250 rupees per month. Confused after my MSc, like many of the young students, what to do after your MSc. So I joined my PhD program to do research in the Department of Botany, University of Delhi, and I was given a project to work on Arachis hypogaea, which is the normal peanuts which we eat. But that didn't excite me much, that particular research. I started preparing for civil service, but then I found a lot of difficulty, I resigned, yes, registered in MPhil and completed my MPhil degree. And a discussion with my Japanese friend basically excited me to do research in marine algae, the seaweeds. Next one. And you are all aware about the seaweeds. This is just a brief background which I gave while preparing for the civil service. And no, the next one, the Antarctica one, the first. So I saw a advertisement that India is making expeditions to Antarctica and big scientists were going to Antarctica. So what I did is I thought that why can't I go to Antarctica as a student? So people discouraged me. No, 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 no. How you will be selected to go to Antarctica? You know, all the big scientists are going and all. I thought that this is an exciting moment. Why not to try? Because without trying, if you say that, okay, I was not selected, but with the grace of God, I was selected as the first student from India to go to Antarctica. And that's the reason why I quit my civil service exam and I started my journey. But it was not an easy thing. All of you know that Antarctica is the seventh continent and is the coldest, the driest, the stormiest, the windiest, and the most inaccessible continent in the whole world. And the continent is known as the White Desert, the home of blizzards, penguins' land, and it is the icy continent. And Antarctica is the biggest refrigerator in the world. There is no other bigger refrigerator than Antarctica. The lowest temperature was minus 89.6. We all severe when the temperature goes below 5 or 6 degree, but imagine the temperature is minus 89.6 and the wind speed goes up to 190 kilometers per hour during the blizzards. And it is the driest of all the continent where 90% of the world's fresh water is stored in the form of ice. That's the uniqueness of this particular continent. Next one, please. Okay. So Antarctica, how big is the continent? It has an area of 14 million square kilometers. That is the size of this icy continent is bigger than India and China put together. In such a vast continent, only 2 to 3,000 people live during the summer season and only around 1,000 people live during the winter season. Right now, Antarctica is having the winter season and it is having continuous night. Antarctica is a continent where you will have continuous 6 months of 26 months of day, and it's devoid of any human habitation. So all these people which I have mentioned who live in Antarctica, they are basically the researchers, the logistics people who go in various expedition and stay there for a year or for a few months, and then they come back. And the next group of people they visit Antarctica. The average temperature of Antarctica is minus 35 degrees centigrade. But most interestingly, you will find there is not much snowfall in Antarctica. There is so much of snow, but not so much of snowfall in Antarctica. It is only 50 millimeter per year as the air is very, very dark. So that's the uniqueness of this particular continent. You have all the snow, but you have not much snowfall. Next one, please. So if you see this particular slide, you can see the continent, how it looks like. During the winter, with its ice cap, Antarctica is roughly circular with a diameter of around 4,500 kilometers. You know, it's a pulsating continent, and this is an area of around 14 million square kilometers. If all the ice would removed from Antarctica, the landmass which you will find below the ice would just reduce, measuring square. Okay, that's the beauty of Antarctica. If we remove all the ice, the size become almost half. You can see in the background, there is a huge glacier, which you can see in the left-hand side, the thickness of ice of the continent. Next one, please. So, such a far off continent, it was nothing much was known about this particular continent. Captain James Cook, a British navigator, sailed from England in July 1772, and on January 17, 1773, he and his team became the first to cross the Antarctic Circle. Remember, the Antarctic Circle, not the real continent. Subsequently, till 1819, no human being had seen Antarctica for so many years. The first person to see Antarctica was Captain Thaddeus, a Russian explorer who saw the continent for a far off place on January 27, 1822, but couldn't make any discovery. So the first human who landed on the continent was John Davis, an American sailor. He landed on Antarctica on February 7, 1821. So imagine how many years it took from 1772 to 1821 just to put your foot on Antarctica. From 1821 till January 1895, nearly 74 years, the Antarctica remains almost unexplored. It was such a difficult job, such a harsh continent, such difficult weather, so nobody dared to explore the continent in 1895. Next one. Antarctica, as you know, it's a beautiful continent and it is a penguin's land. These are some of the most beautiful animals I have ever seen in my life, and such fascinating, such disciplined group of birds, which I'll be talking about in my subsequent slides. This is just to give you a glimpse of these beautiful, friendly animals that we have a lot of things to learn from these beautiful penguins. Next one. Okay, so I'm not going into much details about Antarctica. You can Google it and find out a lot of information. Now, what happens? I'll talk about India's journey to the frozen continent, and what you could see here is an aerial shot, and India started its venture because it's a very, very tough job and you need to do a lot of preparations. The Prime Minister of India, the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, wanted that India should go to space, India should go to Antarctic. Going to Antarctica will establish India's supremacy in the scientific field all over the world. So after a lot of hectic preparation, India launched its expedition, first ever expedition from Goa on December 6, 1981. I repeat, on December 6, 1981, India launched its first expedition and India reached Antarctica on January 9, 1982 at 3 a.m. in the early morning Indian Standard Time, where the leader of the first Indian expedition, Dr. S.J. Kasim, hoisted the Indian flag in the Antarctic continent. And that was a very, very historic moment for the whole country. But the journey was not easy. The journey was one of the most challenging job to carry the expedition through an icebreaker. What you see here is in this particular slide that a ship is moving through the frozen ice, breaking the ice. Next one. So you could see when I talk about Antarctica, this is the white desert, how Antarctica looks like. Wherever your eyes goes up to the horizon, you can see this is the land of mystery and wonder. And the vast extent of ice which you can see, the severe climatic conditions and remoteness, this makes it virtually the other world. A continent which has 6 months of continuous day and 6 months of continuous night. What you could see is, if many of you have seen the normal desert in Rajasthan, full of sand, what you can see in Antarctica is it's full of ice and ice and ice. And since this is a summer picture which was taken during the month of January, you can see only 2% of the Antarctic continent is exposed when the ice melt. What you can see is a little bit of small hillocks and mountains. That is because of the melting of the ice. So imagine the life of the plants and the animals in Antarctica as well as the human beings. You see continuous sun for 6 months and you see continuous night for 6 months. What will be your state of mind, your body's physiology and all these things. So that's a very, very challenge to live in Antarctica for any type of life is a big challenge. Next slide, please. Okay. So Antarctica is known icebergs. Icebergs are nothing but the huge mass of ice which you can see floating in the so what you could see is this is a wonderful icebergs which you come at and you can see another ship and behind the ship you can see few icebergs are found. It's exciting to see the icebergs which I'll be talking about in my subsequent slides. Next one. This is another view of the icebergs. There is a ship which you can see through this hole, and behind this ship there is a very big iceberg. When I was going in the expedition, I saw the first icebergs and I couldn't believe it. Everybody, I was sleeping and the people said, hey, come and let's have a look of an iceberg. There is a huge mass of icebergs. was so excited to see this iceberg. I wanted to actually touch that icebergs. I was telling the captain, take the ship very close to icebergs. But the captain was telling all of us to stay away. Huge, like a mountain of ice. And actually, the iceberg is 2/3 under the water and only 1/3 is visible to the surface. So now I realize after seeing the movie Titanic that why our captain was telling us not to take the ship very close to the iceberg. So that was actually a big challenge to see this. Next one. This is another beautiful view of Antarctica when the summer ice start melting. You can see such wonderful pictures which I have never seen anywhere in the world. You can see a thick iceberg. It's a flat iceberg which is floating in huge mass of water and ice. These are the different views of Antarctica. Next one. Okay, I just gave you a background of how Antarctica looks like, what is the uniqueness of this Antarctica, but how Antarctica was formed. You as students, you must know that once upon a time, the whole world was just one landmass. And then the world was broken into two pieces. You can see here in this map in the lower part how the earth was broken. And then subsequently, after millions of years, you know about the theory of continental drift, how these continents were drifted and they are broken, how the pieces of the world were broken and then moved to its current position. Now, if you try to reunite these different continents and take it very close and try to put it, you will find part of Australia, part of Antarctica, South America, North America. This will just fit perfectly, just like a lock and key. So this is the beauty of this map, which will show you that once upon a time, how the Earth was, and now the current position is. And remember, once upon a time, Antarctica was full of thick forests as well as large-sized animals. And today, all these forests and animals, they have gone, and today it's full of ice. It is the biggest storehouse of all the information. If somebody wants to know the history, you will be able to dig out a lot of information from Antarctica. Next one, please. So here I am showing you the topography of the Antarctica. You can see Antarctica is surrounded Southern Ocean, and you have Antarctica, which is divided into East Antarctica and West Antarctica. And the nearest landmass which you can see here is closest to the Argentina. You can see there is a big like structure, and towards the Weddell Sea, that is the nearest place to Antarctica. Next one. Some people are not able to see the slides in the Microsoft. Can you guys sending me the information? They are not able to see the actually the slides. So can you help them? Next one, please. Next one. Okay, this is a very, very interesting, no, the previous one. Okay, you could see this. This is a very interesting picture which is showing about the ice sheet thickness, the surface elevation and everything. What is very important is why people are concerned about the Antarctica. You know that how the climate change, the global warming is impacting Antarctica. And the thickness of Antarctica, the ice thickness of Antarctica is maximum thickness is 4.5 kilometers. In other words, if you go on digging the Antarctic ice up to 4.5 kilometer, it is only ice and ice and ice. And 70% of the world's freshwater deposits are found in Antarctica. So if all the ice of Antarctica will melt, the sea level in the world will be risen by 60 meters. So that is the level of impact. That's why both the Arctic as well as the Antarctic are very, very important to maintain the temperature balance, as well as it is important to maintain the ice sheet. Next one. Okay, I was talking about various glaciers. You could see these pictures. This is the Lambert Glacier, which is around 40 kilometers wide and flows for over 400 kilometers. It is the largest glacier in the whole world. And I have already told you, if all the ice will melt in Antarctic, what will happen, how the sea level will rise. So it is our common responsibility to combat the global warming. And if you see the right hand side, top and bottom picture, the thickness of ice there, I am just 5.2 feet, 5.6 feet standing just there in the right hand side below the glacier, which is very near to the India's permanent station. You can imagine how huge is this particular glacier. Just as a control, you can see these two particular slides in the right hand side, how a glacier looks like. We are all quite excited when we go to Kashmir or we go to Himachal or Uttarakhand to see but here you don't see much of snow, you see much of ice, and the slide below what you can see crystal clear blue ice, break and very, very thick and hard. Next one, please. See the impact of the wind on the formation of the ice in the main Antarctic continent. They move away from Antarctica and they come to from the Antarctic Ocean. When they move, the winds are so high, it's very. You can see this particular icebergs, which is so beautiful. There was a proposal by the Gulf countries to pull these icebergs to their country and convert these icebergs into the fresh water. A lot of research started on this particular program, that how to pull these icebergs, putting some chemicals, and then convert this fresh water and supply to the Gulf countries, but the program couldn't succeed. Next one. This is another beautiful icebergs. So Antarctic icebergs, unlike those from the Arctic, are not usually carved out from the glaciers, but consist of portions that have broken away from the great ice shelves which surround much of the Antarctic continent. Remember, we have Arctic as well as Antarctic. Now, Arctic icebergs are very, very different. You can see that how in the back of this particular slide, the ice and slow the is broken, and here in the forefront of this particular slide, that how the melted and then able to contribute to the sea level rise. Here is a boat which carrying the people little closer to the icebergs. Next one. These are some of beautiful icebergs which are very, very important. You can see these different shape of these icebergs which I have these pictures. You can see it. The first one left hand side, there is so much of strong wind which blows through these icebergs which has virtually made some holes. Then there are some flat icebergs on the right hand side. They are shaped in the sea by the wind, and then some become gleaming white while others become pink or golden as the sunset and sunrise will have, so there will be a lot of reflection of the light. But the bottom right hand side, the icebergs which you see is, this is the first ever icebergs I have seen in my own lives. So viewing icebergs itself is a very, very exciting thing. There are a lot of scientific on these icebergs. Some people are studying the shape, size, the melting, the types of plants and the types of microbes which inhabit these microbes. What are the scientific information being trapped? All these things, a lot of informations are actually present in these icebergs. Next one. It's very interesting. I have told you about the icebergs, but what you could see here in the left hand side, the Antarctica started. I said it's a pulsating continent. During the summer, the ice will melt, and as the winter approaches, the ocean will start freezing. So what you see here in the left hand side, that how the sea is slowly getting frozen. So this is called as a cream ice, or you can see these wonderful, wherever your eyes goes, it forms a creamy layer of ice, and this is very, very important to see. This is a very exciting picture you will come across. And the right hand side, you can see the when it sets in, you can see this the things start getting. You have left hand side the ice formation, and then right hand side upon you can see the breaking of this ice. Another interesting thing is Antarctica is home to nearly more than 150 lakes that lie at the base of the continental ice sheet. Lake Vostok is the largest of these subglacial lakes. It was discovered beneath Russia's Vostok station way back in 1996. And there is a Priyadarsini lake named after late Mrs. Indira Priyadarsini Gandhi, who was the former Prime Minister. And this particular lake is present in front of the India's permanent station, Maitri. I'll be showing you and talking about subsequently. Next one, please. Okay, now we all talk about, when we talk about Antarctica, two things come to our mind, that Antarctica is known for penguins and known for seals. This picture, what you could see here in the left hand side is the penguins as well as the seals, but they are not native to Antarctica. They are not native to Antarctica. The largest animal and the native animal of the Antarctica, the original native animal of Antarctica, is the right hand side. You can see this is the largest animal, which is Belgica antarctica. You could see that particular picture. So that is a very small insect, which is actually the original in Antarctica. There are different types of penguins: emperor penguins, Adelie penguins, and there are different types of seals. So you can see all these things in Google. So I am not spending much of time, as a lot of information is in the media. Next one. Now, I have told you about the penguins, how well disciplined they are, standing in the left hand side. Emperor penguins and king penguins here are holding the coats, with the native one which are there. You can see in the right hand side, and they all travel in a discipline, they walk in a discipline, just to see various species of penguins. Next one. Again, you can see the left hand side, the penguin. Can you mark something like yellow strip, and in the beak something is very unique feature to see these penguin. And then you can see here Adelie penguins, and also there are penguins which are laying eggs. So the penguins are very unique animals, which you can also see now. Some of them are living in the zoo, and if you go to the Macquarie Islands in Australia or in South Africa, you can see a large number of penguins, but they're very different than the penguins. Next one. So you can see these different types of seals: the Weddell seal, the elephant seal, right hand, the crab eater seal, and you can imagine there is a mummified seal. Antarctica is a place where the things have been preserved for millions of years, and here is a picture of a mummified seal. Next one, please. Okay, here I show you, when I talk about that, when people went for various expeditions and everything, it is very difficult to live in this extreme environment. And this is a Shackleton's heart. This is a very historical picture. You can see that how the people used to live in Antarctica in those very old days. But now the things have changed, which you will see in the subsequent slides. These prefabricated wooden structure are very important, and this is erected actually on a hilly area, not on the ice shelf. Next one. So you have seen that, and this is exactly the South Pole. This is American permanent station. This is research station of US, and this particular station is actually on the South Pole. And this station is now abandoned. It is not anymore there. This has gone completely underground. And this is a huge structure. And it is very exciting to travel to this South Pole. And this is a dome-shaped building. It has been abandoned because of its safety inside this. Now America has built up a much modern scientific station. Next one. Yes. So I have shown you different aspects of Antarctica. I have told you that how India started its expedition way back in December 6, 1981. This is a very, very rare picture which you see in the left hand side. This is polar circle. Many a times in different types of exams you get the questions that what was the name of the sea which actually was used for the first Indian expedition. This is polar circle. It is leaving the Indian coast, Goa, and moving towards Antarctica. This is a very, very rare which anywhere, but you can see when I wrote this book, I do not know whether you will be able to see many of the things in this particular book, which I am holding in my hand, and the rarest of the rare picture has been given in this particular book. The title of the book is Antarctica, India's Journey to the Frozen Continent, written by Dr. S.Z. Qasim and myself. Dr. Qasim was the first leader of the first Indian expedition and the father of Indian polar science. Now, what you could see here down below is the India's permanent station, Dakshin Gangotri, and India celebrated the Independence Day on 15th August 1984 at Dakshin Gangotri. You can see there are two different buildings, Indian flag, and there is a dome, but this building is not anymore there in this particular, this has all gone underground. This building is no more in use and it has gone inside the ice. Next one. This I have given you a particular slide about the glimpses of Antarctica. You see these are the picture of 1981-82 when there was no digital camera, no high quality camera, very, very small camera. And what is important is what you could see is the left hand side. When the Indian expedition started, when you reach the continent and you do not know anything, it is the vast area. So you need to picture and you could see the helicopter in the right hand side. You could see the snow scooter. You could see the activities, and in the center picture is also showing how the people are just exploring it, just like going to the moon. I mean, the feeling is just going just to walk on the moon. That is such exciting. And here you can see the scientist is talking, watching the penguins. The next one. Okay, one of the biggest challenge for India was to prove itself that, okay, scientifically we can achieve, scientifically we can prove and do all these things. But the biggest support India's thing to set up the site to make for India's permanent station. With the help of geoscientists, it was important to the sites, and you could see certain huts there. And in this expedition, India couldn't achieve much except putting its foot and collecting some of the data and try to locate for the sites and go for the site selection. So this is a very, very rare picture again to show site for Indian station. Next one. This this is a beautiful picture. Again, a very rare and historic picture. All these materials which you see, this is the site where the India's first permanent station, Dakshin Gangotri, was built, and you could see the Indian tricolor on the top. And these are all the prefabricated materials which have been put on the top of this ice shelf. And building this in a record time is a challenging job in this such extreme conditions, wearing gloves. Like we are now Corona times, we are all doing our nose and mask, mouth, everything with the mask, and also this is very important. And building this station was a great challenge, and it is one of the rarest of the things to build in the years of 1980s. Imagine, and these are the what you call the prefabricated material which were taken and just used. Next one. These are all insulated house. You could see in a record time, the Indian station is being built, Indian tricolor. You could see the balloons in the left hand side, and these balloons are basically, just a minute. So you could see there is a balloon which is there in the left hand side. That is basically to measure the UV, the impact of ozone hole and all these things. And you can see there is a right hand side, there is a snow truck. This is next one, please. Okay. So you could see this, how carry the material. So this particular slide, which I showed it to you, Dakshin Gangotri, the Dakshin Gangotri couldn't last for many years. And the challenge was to build another station. So during the expedition when I went, we looked for this to Antarctica, which is very strategic. So this is unlike the previous station. It has to be on a rocky area where you need the water supply. So you can see a huge glacier in your backside, and this glacier is the source of your fresh water and other things, the supply. And you could see I'm sitting here at the left hand side down bottom. Next one. So going to Antarctica is a big challenge. Traveling in Antarctica was a challenge. So this is a picture so that how you transport the usage. So the dogs were taken from the Arctic and the mainland, and they were taken. What you could see here, there is a in the back, all your food material and everything is being carried out, and the dogs have to basically carry your material. Just to give you a feeling, a huge continent, the way mode of. Next one, please. Okay, so I'll be talking about my journey after giving you a lot of talk about the brief about Antarctica. Now, how I was selected as a student and how I made it to Antarctica. I think this will be very, very useful for all of you. Those are the hard times where there was no internet, not much connectivity and everything. As I told you earlier, I was preparing for my civil service examination as well as doing my PhD at that particular time. I applied for Antarctica expedition. Many of the people said, oh, who will take a student and all, and it is so expensive. A lot of prominent scientists, professors will be, competing for this. But anyhow, I had a very, very strong willpower and I just applied, and one day I got a call from the secretary to the government of India, the leader of the first expedition, Dr. S.J. Qasim, that look, I am glad to inform you that you have been selected as the first student from India to go to Antarctica in the expedition. This was a decision which was taken at the highest level, because prior to that we never sent any student because this incurred a lot of expenditure and everything. So that was one of the most happiest moment in my life. I never imagined that I coming from such a small place like Puri, from a humble background, that I'll go to Antarctica. I had never been to a foreign country. I never had a passport. And that time as a student, I had no money. And so it was really a big, big challenge for me. But before going to be Antarctica, you have to have medically fit. You have to be psychologically fit. Look, the biggest problem in Antarctica is you have to be psychologically fit and mentally fit, because it is the loneliness. And then you have to go under a training. Here I am standing left hand side with a backpack and this thing. So before you go to Antarctica, you have to go yourself under a lot of training. So this is a picture at the high altitude warfare school at Sonmark in 1987. I undergone this high altitude warfare school training, how to survive in a glacier, how to do the rock climbing, how to walk on the ice, how to do the things. So this was a tough training, and this training I undertook amongst the people from Army, Navy, and Air Force, and the civilians. And I, being the youngest one at that time, to adjust all the senior and respected people. So that is where I learned one thing, that how to live in harmony with the people from the army, navy. On the right hand side, you can see there is a very, very dangerous but very, very adventurous picture with the help of a rope, how you have to climb down in case you fall into a crevices. Next one. Okay, so this is the ship, the Thule Land. I started my journey on this particular ship, and imagine when I started from Goa in November 1987, it was a very, very what do you call, very emotional moment. I, as a student, I just picked up a train from New Delhi railway station, landed in Goa, and when the ship started from Goa port, a large number of people were there, and the Indian band was playing Sare Jahan Se Acha, Hindu Sita Hamara, and people are waving. It was, I still remember, like it was around 4:35, and everybody has come there to say bye-bye, and I was a young student. There was nobody to say bye-bye to me, because other people are mostly all of them were married, and somebody's brother, somebody's wife, somebody's father have come to see them off. And I don't know if you were going, but it was the first time. It was a very emotional moment, but very exciting and very pride moment when the people are saying bye-bye, and the ship was leaving, and suddenly the darkness is coming. A lot of thought comes to the mind, and in 1 hour time, you are vanished in the dark, and everywhere it is dark and dark and dark, and you are in the middle of the sea. So that was a very important thing. And what the picture you can see here is we are trying to crossing the Roaring 40 and crossing the ship. I think, can you put back? Yes, I got back the picture. So this is Roaring 40, and this ship is passing through very rough weather, and since like I'm static now, it is very difficult for me to explain. Probably if it would have been a very direct presentation, you would have enjoyed much better. But what is more important is when you enter the Roaring 40, the rolling and pitching starts, and you cannot sleep. You get seasickness for 2 to 3 days, and you do a walk like a spacewalk. You cannot eat much of the things. It comes out. You vomit. You sleep on the bed in the night, and suddenly your ship will roll from left to right, and then everything will fall. You get up in the middle of the night and try to put a belt on your body and then try to sleep. And when you go for eating and try to fill up your plate and come and sit on the chair, you sit, and then you have to walk like a robot. It's very tough, and this is a very tough experience to cross through Roaring 40, and you have to make a balance. And you can see when the ship will tilt, you will be able to see the sky from the window. There is so much of tilting, and most of the accidents actually happen in the Roaring 40 if your ship is not properly designed. If it is not a large ship, the ship will topple, and most of the death happens in this Roaring 40. Next one, please. Next one. So you have seen now the Roaring 40. After crossing the Roaring 40, you see the next is you come near the Antarctic Ocean where the ice is frozen. So your ship has to actually, this is an ice breaking ship, and it will break this ice and then pass through. You can see the path, and you can see these beautiful dolphins in the back of the ship. This wonderful, and all sides you can see it is full of ice. And actually, when you are stuck in the middle of the ice, it is a very difficult challenge. So navigation in Antarctica, you are starting from a warm sea of Arabian Sea, moving into the Indian Ocean, then moving Roaring 40, and then going through these creamy ice, now coming to little thicker ice. Next one, please. So you are just like lost. Next one. But these, when you see these wonderful animals, you are excited. So here you can see the ship is slowly entering the Southern Ocean or Antarctic Ocean. I have shown you a close-up of that particular picture, that how it enters, and this is the first icebergs in the left hand side below, which you can see, which is floating. And I tried to go very near, and then I never understood, as I have told, that why the pilot of the ship, the captain, said never go close to this. So that I realized when I saw the movie Titanic. that what was the devastating consequence which happens when you go very close to an iceberg. Next one, please. So you can see three shapes, 1, 2, 3 in this particular slide. Now the ice thickness is very thick, 4 feet, sometimes 6 feet. So in the middle of this Antarctic Ocean, navigation is one of the biggest challenge. Now when this ice breaker cuts the ice, it melts actually the ice and then make the path for the other ships to go. You are lost in this particular area, it's gone. So the path is made and the other ships follow you, and that's a very rare picture again. Next one. So what happens if you stay in this, if you travel in the ship and do the things, if you are struck like this, because here you can see there is a ship which is totally stuck in the ice. It couldn't move anywhere. And if you are stuck in the ice, if you don't find a proper path, there is nobody to rescue you. You can only come across these penguins, and you come here, and if you are stuck for months. Only penguins are there to welcome you. So navigation in Antarctica is one of the biggest challenge. And when you travel for 25 days, 30 days non-stop in the ship and make your ways to Antarctica, you have to keep yourself busy. Because you are the same number of people totally isolated inside the ship and you travel, you have to pursue your hobby. Otherwise, psychologically, it is very depressing. Next one. So this is one of the most exciting moment in my life. After traveling for so many days, see me holding the Delhi University flag on the top of the Gangotri. If you remember, the previous Dakshin Gangotri was a two-storied building, and you can see this two-storied building has already gone down, and I am standing on the top of this building holding Delhi University flag. This is on 26 January 1988, and I was very proud to actually hoist the Indian flag as the first Indian student to hoist the Indian flag in Antarctica, and that I take pride in representing the entire students community, that okay, finally a student has come to Antarctica and represent the country. So this is a totally exciting moment. You can see me wearing different type of dresses and wearing a goggles and having the beard, but at the same time this was a bright day, so I just took out my cap. Next one, please. You can see the vast ice all side of this particular station. And so again, I am holding a penguin here. This is the first time you can see these penguins here in the left hand side. And I just picked up a penguin. I got a kiss on my cheek from this particular penguin. And it was really very exciting to watch and hold these penguins. And they are very friendly. Next one. Next one, please. Can I have the next slide, please? Can you change the slide to the next slide, please? as in technology is having its own advantage and disadvantage. Okay. So, as a researcher, it is really important for you to see that what are the life forms, and I, being a plant person, was looking for the type of my specialization was algae. But you could see one of the biggest plant which you can see on the left hand side on the Antarctic islands. No, go back to the previous slide, please. The previous slide which I was explaining about the plant's life in Antarctica. Previous one. Yes, this particular. So you can, no. The slide with the plants after this particular slide. Yeah, hold on this one. So you could see left hand side, this is Deschampsia Antarctica and Colobanthus cuitensis. These two are actually the higher plants, and then you have you can see there is a rock right hand side having Braciola, and then down below there is microscopic algae growing in the large quantity, and then you have lichens in the right hand side. So these are the only life forms which you actually get in Antarctica. Can I have the next slide, please? So what is important is collection of the material is very important, and here you can see on the left hand side top, walking on this is very dangerous because these are loose ice and it is very difficult to collect walk on this, because if you are down you can see left hand side, it is so dangerous. I mean, I can't explain it to you how risky it is to go for the collections. Right hand side top picture, you can see that you have to drill to collect the samples. And drilling is very difficult to see that how these microorganisms survive. Next one, please. Yes, so you could see these beautiful pictures here again on the left hand side, top and right hand side. This is again how the when you enter Antarctica, the ice is fully broken into pieces. It's a magnificent view, and on the left hand side top, you have a helicopter, naval helicopter, Chetak helicopter, which is actually exploring that which is the place to go and collect this material. This is very important. Next one, please. So when you go for collections, your helicopter will take you and to place. Now I have told you, so you have to be very, very careful. Standing in the both India's permanent station in the center, just the village over, and you can see what happens in the left hand side below picture. You have to keep everything covered. If you don't keep everything covered, your face will be full of ice. Careful about, and sometimes very, very difficult to those side except so namely please. Can I have the next slide, please? Can somebody hear? Can you put the next, please? Hello.
Yes, sir. Next slide is on.
Yes, sir. Next slide is on. No, it's I can't see it. It is the same blizzards. Okay. So, so I have shown you that what happens during the blizzard to you, but here you can see what happens to the blizzard in the continent. After the blizzard, the ice become very, very sharp like razor due to impact of bright sunlight. So it is very, very dangerous to walk on these razor-like ice. If you are not properly equipped, even it can cut your shoes and gloves. So the huge area of the continent after the blizzard, when it gets sunshine, some of the ice will melt, snow will melt, and this will be just like your what do you call like the nails or the spikes which are actually facing. You feel like you are made of thorns, very razor sharp edges, and if you fall, you may cut you. Next, please. Yeah. So under such circumstances, we have a biggest challenge, not only to do our research and design on these extreme environment, but also build India's permanent station in this particular site. And you can see the petrol drums are over here. You could also see where the pillars have been erected. It's a very, very challenging job, and you could see the wind speed. There is a wind direction which is for measurement, and here we camped wooden and started building this India's permanent station. The next one, please. Yes. So you have to be really multitasking. I student during this collections permanent station. In the front, we build a dedicated stuff. We can see Maitri beauty and very little backside is the beautiful, magnificent hill area, and that is where we started constructing this Maitri station. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide, please? Can I have the next slide?
Next slide is on, sir. Just
next slide is on, sir. No, it is the same one which is there. Yeah. Now the next slide has come. So you can imagine we have very little time, and in this little time under this harsh condition, you have to work very, very hard because it is all day and day and day. There is no night when we went. And you can see the bottom picture. I'm wearing a white pant and having discussions. And you can see there is a concrete mix. You can see these iron pillars. And on the left hand side, one block is completed. So we were satisfied that within very few days, remember in Antarctica, you can't work every day. There are very few working days you will get. In a month, maybe you will get 15 or 20 days, because the rest of the days you will get blizzards and other problems. So here we are just having a little bit of bonfire after working and enjoying some tea and snacks. And obviously we can't cook. We carried all our frozen food to Antarctica, and in those frozen food we just survived for 3 months. Next one. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Can you hear me?
yes, sir. It is on.
Yes, sir. It is on. No, it has not come. I can't see the next slide. Yes. So what you saw on the previous, the Maitri. Now I am very, very glad and very proud to be part of building this India's second permanent research station Maitri, which is built up. You can see the very, very Indian flag, and if you can remember few previous slides, there is a glacier in the back, and in the front you have the Indira Priyadarshini Lake. You can see there is a long pipe which is the source of fresh water supply, and the whole students community and the whole country should be proud of this particular structure which we started building in 1987. It's still standing tall even after so many years of its construction, where the India's scientific experiments are going on, and this is a miracle. Many a times when I think that how did it happen in such a small day, small time, and when my memory go back, I feel very, very happy to see all these building. This particular building is erected on a prefabricated structure, and such a magnificent view which is being built. Remember, the first station, Dakshin Gangotri, went down after just 4 or 5 years of its 4 years of its construction. But now from 1987, now it is 2020, almost for so many years, 33 years, it has been uh, standing tall. Next, everything. When we came back from Antarctica, we have to produce a report that what we have done. So the report we have to it's called debriefing. All members invited, and you can see this is the picture of our former president, Honorable KR. And when I came back as a first Indian student, obviously I was lucky to meet many people, the then President of India and the Prime Minister. You know, it was a very, very exciting moment to interact with the highest office in the from Mr. KR. Next slide, please. Moment in our station is we opened India's first site, and that is India's post office. And you can see some of the gas cylinders which we carried. And probably when the Antarctic ice will melt, you will find Indian station somewhere floating in the Antarctic Ocean or maybe in Indian Ocean. And this is a postage stamp which was being released to mark the India's first Indian Antarctic expedition, ₹1 stamp here. You can see in the see, this is beautiful slide again. This is midnight in Antarctica, 12 o'clock in the night in Antarctica, but still the sun is on your head. This is a picture of somewhere, I think, December, January 1988, where you can see the midnight sun. The, you can see also in Norway, is actually totally. Next, please. Next slide, please. Next slide.
It is there.
It is there. No, it is the same. As it's showing here. Move to the So here this is India's third permanent station, which is built recently. Next one. This station is known as Bharati. This is again an excellent structure. These are the lakes from where the samples were being collected, and basically the ice melt and form these lakes, and this supports little of these algae and bryophytes and other microorganisms. So these are the only places from where you can collect your samples. Next one. Okay, so you could see this is a penguin rockery where thousands and thousands of penguins, they live together. Next one. Next one, please. Okay, this is a very, very important station, of course. Where many and civil place. So I think this is important. This is a connecting base from where the supply goes to Antarctica from New Zealand side. Next one. Beautiful view called Aurora Australis, which you can see in Antarctica. This is a lightning phenomenon. This Aurora Australis you can see in Antarctica. This is a once in a lifetime, to be lucky enough to see. This is at the American station. Next one. So you have seen both the daytime as well as this is the nighttime picture. You can see only in the night. Next. Can I have the next particular slide? Next slide. You can see this, what a crowd. Is there some meeting or conference going on? Probably the move is to oust humans who are crowding and spoiling their rightful territory. And if you see these penguins, they're just lovely. It sends us a lot of message. We are talking about social distancing, crowding, and you can see this wonderful image. I think this is the last. Hello, is it the last? To the next slide. Hello. Can I?
Sir, this is your last slide.
Sir, this is your last slide. Okay. So this is my last slide. I deliberately didn't show many of the pictures, adventures and misadventure of things because I thought that this is a time where we are going, the whole world is going through a crisis, a global crisis, the whole world is going through. I didn't show many of the slides where the crevices are there. If the vehicle will will fall, you will be almost 2 kilometers down. So many of these pictures, misadventure pictures, deliberately I didn't show it to you. But what is more important for each one of you, life is full of challenges. You as young students and young scientists should take challenges in life, because what I strongly believe that when you take some of these extraordinary challenges, God has given you one life, and death can come anytime on the road accident or on sleep or various ways. So there is no better way, there is no better death than dying for your own country. When you die for your own country doing your work, the entire nation will mourn for you. And that's very, very important. When you are doing your science, do it for your country, do it past the challenge. You will not learn anything in your life. And second important point is, uh, I, as a student, worked in a very 1980s, where many of you were not born, traveling in the hot compartments. There was no internet. It takes almost 15 days to get a letter. There's no communication, no mobile, all these things. So you are lucky to be born in the 21st century, and you can do a lot many things. I missed many of the things because through the web connectivity, it doesn't give you that type of interactions. Probably a direct interactions would have been much, much better, but I'll reserve it for some other days in the future. With these words, I thank you once again for sparing your time, and I thank again for NIST. But one last video I would like to play in this Corona time, which is very, very important for all of you, that why together we must join the hands and preserve the globe for our future generations. Can you run the video, please? Can you run the video?
Yes, sir, they are going to play, sir. They are going to play the video.
Yeah. And after that, I will take question answer. Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Sir, thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful lecture. Your lecture has literally virtually taken us, made us travel all the way to Antarctica. And your personal experience, which started all the way from the Puri station till Antarctica, and despite so many challenges and under such harsh conditions, it did not deter you, from going into the expedition and then completing the expedition. And I'm sure that your lecture has greatly encouraged and reignited the scientific quest among our young students who have joined today. And we are getting a lot of comments appreciating your lecture. Somebody is saying that we don't have any, good words to mention how good your lecture has been. So now we will quickly, with your permission, we will quickly go into the Q&A session. We have a separate team who has been collecting all the questions that were asked by the participants on Facebook, YouTube, and MS Teams. So this will be moderated by Ms. Monty Gogoi. So I request Monty Gogoi to please take over.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Sir, we have questions from Bindu Jacob. He wants to ask that earning PhD hold the same value in today's industry job market or as it used to be earlier. Many doctorates are unemployed or settle for low-paid jobs. How can such problem be addressed to that youth of our country, which would not lose research in research area? Sir, he wants to know about it.
Okay. Actually, job has a problem during our time also. The problem now, it will continue to be there in the future. But what happens if you are actually the best in the field and if you have proven yourself that your work has a lot of relevance, whether for industry or academics or research institutions, there will be 20 people there to hire you. So job is not the problem. So you should be committed, you should be devoted, and your work should be having a lot of relevance in the present day scenario. So I think you shouldn't be worried about the jobs. Do your best. I'm sure you will get a job.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is from Debabrot Borua. He wants to know, do variations in geothermal heat flux in Antarctica provide a diagnostic signature of sub-ice geology?
I am not a geological person, so I'll not be able to fully answer this question because I'm not a geologist. I haven't done any work on geology, so just giving an answer for the sake of answer will be injustice to this young.
So the next question is, in Antarctica, due to the very low temperature, it may be ideal for cryopreservation of seeds and other biological objects. Is there any report for such kind of preservation laboratory?
It's a very good question. Actually, Antarctica is a very good place for preservation. Scientifically, we do not allow any foreign materials to be carried and preserved over there. The moment you carry any type of material from outside and try to introduce for the sake of preservation, then you do not know what will be its consequence, because along with the material you carry other microorganisms, right? So if you try to preserve this, you do not know what will be its impact after many years. So we don't encourage that. However, for long-term preservation, there is a permafrost in Norway where the people are doing preservation. In our own country, in India, the DRDO has built up a permafrost in terms of biological materials are there. Okay, so you don't need to go to Antarctica. It is better for us to preserve Antarctica rather than getting into the preservation of any biological material.
Next question is from Anjali. What are the major research experiments being conducted there, and what were the breakthrough results we could obtain so far? Any insights related to the origin of Earth and evolution?
Okay, origin of Earth and evolution will be a very, very different challenge. You know that the microalgae spirulina is one of the oldest living organism, okay, which is found in the hot climate. But Antarctica stored a lot of information in its ice core in terms of its climate, the change in the climate, the type of organisms. There are a lot of research which is going on even on the meteorological data is being collected from Antarctica, which governs the entire global climate. So a lot of data is being collected from different perspectives. The biologists are doing their job, the psychologists are doing their job, the medical doctors are performing their job. There are many equipments which get tested in Antarctica also. That's also very, very important. A lot of research is going on in different fields. And Antarctica being one of the cleanest area in, so there are a lot of things in the field of research in Antarctica.
There is a question from YouTube Live. Hema Harilal, she wants to know, how is the waste management process in Antarctica?
Okay, waste management is very, very important. We don't leave any waste in Antarctica, including the human waste. The fecal matter has to be brought back to the ship, put in an incinerator, and has to be disposed of. That far as the human waste is concerned, we maintain, it is mandatory for all the countries who are making expeditions. They bring back the waste to the ship, and then this is properly disposed at right place. after having proper treatment. Because if you go on piling the waste in Antarctica, the whole continent will be spoiled. So no waste left there.
Next, we have the question from Priyanka Sharma. What is the reason of little snowfall in Antarctica while there is a huge amount of snow and stored fresh water?
You see, how does the snow happen? So when you have a lot of precipitation happens, then in the low temperature that forms the snow. Antarctica being the driest continent, being very dry, so the precipitation level is very, very low. So when there is no precipitation, the question of snowfall doesn't arise. What happens when you have blizzards? It carries the snow from one place to another place. So there is a difference between the snowfall and the snow carrier.
The last question from Jasmine Sandhu. Are there CO2 equivalent threshold that foretell collapse of all or part of Antarctic ice sheet?
Yes, CO2 are being trapped in the ice sheet, okay, because what happens, not only of gases which gets trapped in the ice sheet, that's why ice coring research is going on. People do different types of coring of the ice, take out these and see that at what era, what age the gases and the other particles are getting trapped. And a lot of research are also
The live event will continue in a minute. No, it's okay, sir. He's back. Thank you so much, sir, for your informative answers. I would like to request Ilika ma'am to proceed further.
Once again, thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and accepting our invitation. We started at 11 and now it is almost 1. So nearly 2 hours you have spent with us, and this means a lot to us, sir, especially for the young students that we have organized, this entire program. So your lecture has been really very valuable, and I'm sure that all the students, through their comments and through their questions, we can see that how much enthusiastic and how much they are involved in this today's lecture. So thank you once again, sir. We have just answered only a few selected relevant questions. There are a lot of questions, general questions, so which we will take up separately. So once again, sir, on behalf of my director, Dr. G. Narahari Sastry, thank you so much, sir, for joining with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all the participants. Thank you, sir.
Thank you to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.